Now, Parliament has set up a 5-member committee to probe what has become known as the cash for seed controversy, in which the Trades Ministry was implicated. The minority, whose petition to the Speaker of Parliament prompted the recall of MPs from recess, had insisted that the House had to investigate allegations that some expatriate businessmen were charged up to $100,000 to secure seats close to President Akufo-Addo at the recently held Expatriate Business Awards. Though the presidency exonerated the Trades Minister of any wrongdoing, the minority at the emergency sitting on Friday argued there were unresolved issues that had to be dealt with. The majority leader, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, however, described the motion as technically flawed and urged the Speaker to dismiss it.
He says, we, the undersigned members of Parliament from their respective constituencies indicated against our names and comprising more than 50% of all members of Parliament, hereby request for a meeting of Parliament and humbly request the Speaker of Parliament to summon a meeting of Parliament for the consideration of the following proposed urgent agenda. Mr. Speaker, and he supplies a list that they are the people who have signed. The list that he supplies to you, Mr. Speaker, 28 persons have not appended any signature. Mr. Speaker, again, a classical case of misrepresentation. Honorable Inusa Abdullahi Hussein, we are told you have appended your signature. You have not. The honorable members, order. The Honorable Adam Mutawakil, we are told you have appended your signature. You have not. The Honorable Alasan Swalihu Dandawa, the Honorable Mungaka has said you have appended your signature. You have not. Honorable Bashir said, so clearly, what we have before us is incompetence. It's a very incompetent motion which cannot be entertained by this House. People should grow in this House and they should learn the procedures of this House. If they want to come properly, just so that nobody will think that anybody has done anything untoward. This House should stand prepared, once the proper thing is done, to go into the matter. But certainly not on this leg at all. Very wobbly legs. Very wobbly legs. This is a veritable incompetent motion that has been submitted by.
Thank you very much.
So I would urge and pray you to dismiss this. Let them come properly. If they come properly, even today, we are ready to debate.
Minority Leader Haruna Idris, however, defended the motion, explaining that it met the minimum number of signatures required by the Constitution.
Mr. Speaker, I have with me here, I've heard the majority leader. He is questioning even the competence of your judgment in some of the questioning the competence of the motion. Mr. Speaker, this House is not for nothing that he is sitting there as leader of government business. He is accompanied the deputy leader, whip, deputy whip. Here is a minority leader, deputy leader, whip, and deputy whip. Mr. Speaker, the memorandum to you and I want to show it to the public, is signed by the Honorable Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka, Minority Chief Whip, in a memorandum with address to the Speaker for Parliament. You just sat down. I hope you listened to yourself. You said there is no reference to the Constitution. The Speaker, in the same document, that he didn't make reference. Mr. Speaker, in the Honorable Muntaka's memorandum addressed to you, as the Speaker and the head of this organ, it says subject, and it reads, request to the Speaker of Parliament under Article 1123 of the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, what does Article 1123 state? It states, and I quote, notwithstanding any other provision of this article, 15% of members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, you have a House of 275 members. 15% works out to 41.25, so 41. Mr. Speaker, further to the document which he quotes, questioning the whip for using we the underlisted, the we the undersigned, we because, Mr. Speaker, he is conveying this memorandum to you for on behalf of the minority to which he is our whip. And Mr. Speaker, I want the majority leader take your fingers and count the signatures for the public. 41 signatures is what we require. So, Mr. Speaker, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41. At this point, we have already satisfied the minimum constitutional requirements.
The House eventually took a break to allow the minority to resolve the issues raised by the majority. And though they refused to amend the motion, the Speaker allowed it to stand and announced the establishment of the committee.
I have studied the Constitution very carefully, and I'm convinced that the recall provided for 1123 is mandatory once the requisite number of MPs have signed the petition as appropriately provided by law. Is mandatory. I do not see any discretion therein, and I do not intend to invoke any. Nevertheless, once Parliament is recalled, a Speaker may have the discretion regarding what business takes place. For that matter, anything that offends the issues raised above will be grounds for, and I quote, open and close, quotation ends, policy. In other words, you recall and then you send away. Not to encourage anything that will be considered frivolous, vexatious, or otherwise an abuse of the process of Parliament. In other words, that right provided, we should be careful, does not become a tool for promoting that which is frivolous, vexatious, or otherwise an abuse of the process of Parliament. Our good nation cannot be allowed to sink into insecurity and confusion, and that is why I have allowed this to come on, notwithstanding the incompetence in regularities. That kind of society will not help
All right, so we're going over to Parliament now to get some reactions from the Speaker's decision to set up the 5-member committee. And we have on the line our parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Hello, Joseph. What more can you tell us? What have been the reactions following the decision by the Speaker to set up the committee?
So both the majority and the minority side are excited about the move. Samuel Ekudzeto Ablakwa, the seconder of the petition, I had a conversation with him a while ago. He thinks that the setting up of the committee will provide a good opportunity to get to the bottom of this particular issue, and it would amount to advancing Ghana's democracy. And so he is really excited about this. Muntaka Mubarak, the main petitioner, has equal thoughts, except that he's raising issues with the terms of reference that were outlined for the committee. You would recall that when the Speaker outlined that it was something having to do with when this particular issue first came up, when it was brought to the attention of Parliament, and whether Parliament could have dealt with it at a different time than this. They have concerns about that and think that the terms of reference don't touch on the real substance of the case. But then the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, was making the point that when it comes to the specific terms of reference, this is something that they would look at again. Both himself and the majority leader, Mensa Sabontu, would subsequently take a look at that and help the committee for them to shepherd a good terms of reference in terms of what would come out eventually. One other thing that the minority chief whip is demanding, that they would want to see this committee sit in public. They would want to see them do a public inquiry where they would invite witnesses to come respond to various questions and documents would be tendered. This is something that when we asked the majority leader, Mensa Sabontu, whether this would happen, he says that's something that we are waiting for the 5-member committee chaired by the majority chief whip in Parliament, Ameya Ostreme, to determine and come to a determination as to how they would want to conduct their business. So that's the kind of reaction that we get, and both sides are happy. But Haruna Idrisu, the minority leader, again gave the indication that the Speaker's earlier ruling, which stated that the motion that they brought in was incompetent and that about 28 MPs out of the 77 hadn't signed, and that this is a motion that he couldn't have admitted, and directed that they go amend, which, as we realized, the minority refused to amend, but the Speaker eventually went ahead to set up the committee. Well, the minority leader says that is not over. They are going to challenge that particular ruling of the Speaker because he had no right to have admitted the majority leader's suggestion that the motion was incompetent and that it wasn't in good shape and that it shouldn't have been allowed after all. So he says they will challenge that subsequently, even as they wait for the committee to begin its sitting. And just finally, Israel, the committee has up until the 25th of January, when the House will reconvene from its current break to put together its report and submit same to Parliament. And so they have quite a limited period to look into the issue and bring their report back.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, parliamentary correspondent. You're watching Joy News from. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. A veteran broadcaster, Godwin Avenogbo, is taking issue with women who show their tongues in photos they post on social media, saying it is a sexual object and therefore it's not supposed to be for public display.
The tongue in our mouth is a sex object. It's an organ.
We'll be back in a bit. Stay tuned. Residents in 6 communities in the eastern region, including Akosombo, are threatening to resist plans by the Volta River Authority to disconnect electricity to their homes. The mass disconnection exercise is to retrieve monies due the authority for electricity supplied. But the residents, in a letter to the Volta River Authority and copied to the police and Esujaman District Chief Executive, among others, are seeking to stop the exercise. Correspondent Kwame Yanka's report.
The letter follows intelligence gathered by the residents that VRA intends disconnecting the communities. The residents say ongoing discussions have been inconclusive, hence VRA has no grounds for the mass disconnection exercise. In June last year, these communities demonstrated against VRA over what they term as outrageous electricity tariffs charged. This was then followed by meetings between the two sides and written letters, including those to the presidency. Ghana Standards Authority and PURC were later brought in to help with calibration of the meters, but it yielded no fruit. Chairman of the Combined Resident Association, Michael Wolanyokotu, speaks on the...
It was realized that the meters were not properly calibrated, which letters I'm having here to show you. After then, VRA refused to comply with the government directives. And yes, the bills are coming. Several petitions to the president yielded no response. Just last week, we learned VRA is coming to do massive disconnection with a task force. So quickly we organized ourselves and informed the police commander, the MP, DC, and a presiding member at the District Assembly of Asoyaman that if VRA venture to come to combine to disconnect, VRA come to combine to disconnect anybody. Other 5 communities, Mangwase, Tosca, Afabin, Kokono, Pupuni, we shall seriously revenge.
Opinion leader George Podochi says some residents are expected to pay as much as 16,000 Ghana cedis for electricity use.
If this dam, excuse me to say, has a problem today, we are the first to be watched out. Why can't we be considered? If this, it has to be looked at. We are the first to die. So why should we be treated this way? Please, Mr. Engineer, your appointment was approved by somebody. That is the presidency. They are advising you. Please, just take the simple advice and come and change the meters for it, because no amount of meetings will solve this problem.
Meanwhile, Director of General Services at VRA, Shirley Seidu, says their technical department has been instructed to suspend the disconnection exercise pending a meeting involving all stakeholders soon. Kwame Yanka's report for Joy News.
A 17-year-old girl from Asina Tussle in the Singing North municipality of the Central Region is in the grips of the police for dumping her newborn baby girl near the public toilet in the community. According to Asina Tussle Unit Committee Chairman Chumesi Ankra, who spoke to Adum News' Alfred Amo, the baby girl was wrapped in a black polythene bag when it was found around 4:30 a.m.
It was around 4:30 a.m. this morning that I heard somebody calling me my name, shouting my name by my window. So I quickly came out, and there was an information that somebody has dumped something. Actually, they didn't know what was in the polythene bag, but the person has just dumped something at just adjacent to the public toilet. There are some bushes over there. So I quickly rushed to the scene with some of my colleagues, the unit committee members. So on reaching the scene, we noticed that there was something tied in a polythene bag, but we were contemplating. We didn't know what actually it was in there. So some were suggesting that probably it might be a cat or a dog, whatever. So we stood there for a while, for at least 5 minutes, and then we heard a baby crying in the polythene. So we quickly opened the polythene and we saw a baby, a newly born baby girl. So we quickly rushed the baby to the St. Francis Hospital, and they gave her medical treatment. So we then reported the case to the police service at Asin Fosu for further investigation. So that is what actually happened this morning. So baby survived. We came to the hospital to check on her, and God being so good, she was in an incubator, and when we came to the hospital, she has been taken out of the incubator and she's in good health.
Meanwhile, the Asin Fosu Divisional Crime Officer DSP Daniel Date has advised the youth to use contraceptives to prevent unwanted pregnancies if they cannot abstain from sex.
During the interrogation, the lady, that's the suspect, was saying she wanted to go to school, continue her school. That's why she did that. So if you want to continue your education and you don't want to be pregnant and you also want to have sex, please, you use condom. We have condom, femidom, we have other types, other means of preventing pregnancy. So I'll also beg the general public to do that.
On to some so good news. Prominent journalist and managing editor of the Alhaj newspaper, Alhaji Baturi, has died. Joining sources at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital said he died Friday afternoon after a short illness. Alhaji Baturi was an avid supporter of the opposition National Democratic Congress and a regular panelist on Adom TV's political talk show, where he often sparred with MPP firebrand Kennedy Ejepong. NEC Chairman Kofi Potofi has been speaking to Joy News about Alhaji Baturi's passing. He described his death as a loss to the nation, adding the late journalist devoted his life to advancing democracy.
I've been sad since the last 2 hours when it was confirmed to me that he's passed on. And I'm sure that many friends of mine, the politicians, the journalists, and Ghanaians in general, will miss him like the rest of us, and many of our friends who are journalists. Although we know our end comes without notice, will be equally sad for a man who had devoted his life to journalism, to bringing out the best in him, to push the democracy where we are today, and undertaking his career as a journalist. There were times that he spent at wrongdoing within the NDC and brought himself up for debate. But for good or for bad, we say that he worked hard, not really to promote the NDC, but to promote democracy, to promote journalism. And I see him as a journalist who has been trying to do his work. And on occasions like this, you would want to say you are missing him, because if he were around and there was this debate, there was this national discussion, he will also make a contribution that will move this nation forward.
Alhaji Baturi also featured regularly on Asempa FM Sekusisen late afternoon talk show, which was hosted by Kaba, who is also deceased. Our condolences to the family, and may his soul rest in perfect peace. We're taking a break. Residents of Fojago and 10 other communities in rural Tamale metropolis face an imminent water crisis, as the only dam serving these communities is drying up. The irony of the situation, however, is that pipelines have been laid in the community, but water does not flow through them, compelling the residents to turn to the dam, which will not be available for long. Northern Regional Correspondent Martina Bugre reports.
It is the usual evening activity where the young and old from 10 different communities in rural Tamale gather to undertake fetching water. It is a mixture of plastic bags with excretal animals, but this is the only water the people of Fushawu and its environs call drinking water. Rebecca Isahaku says most of the diseases in the community are linked to unsafe water. She says she once had guinea worm drinking water from the dam.
If you drink this water, you will fall sick, or you can just get the worm. Sometimes, and if they send you to hospital, sometimes they can remove it, and sometimes it will affect your body. Even me, it have already happened to me. So, and they send me to the toilet and remove it. Even the thing is the scar. Sometimes if the thing happens, if you fall sick or if the thing enter into your body, so you can't walk properly. Even you can, sometimes they will give you sick to be holding and be going. And you can't do anything again. Even sometimes you can't go to toilet on your own.
Adam Mohammed Sharif is from Jantong Dawashi. He wakes up each day at 5 to undertake a mandatory chores of fetching water for his parents before he goes to school, but it's affecting his education.
A fees for the water. I will come in the morning 3 times. 5:30 when I fetch 3 times. When I go to school, I will wait. So my house in this year is very far, so we need water. When you drink it, you can get a disease for your body. Sometimes dogs will urinate and the cow is also put fees for the water.
These communities are on the brink of a severe water crisis as the dry season reaches its peak. Rahina to Elizabeth says in the next 2 months, they will have to travel about 14 kilometers to fetch water because the Foshaku Dam will be dried up.
In dry season, the villages near here are all fetching here. If the water gets finished, the water is not good again. In 2 months' time, the water is getting finished. We are going to get water. It's about 14 kilometers.
Minister for Inner Cities and Zongo Development Alhaji Boniface Abubakar Sadiq is assuring residents in the country's Zongo communities of a number of social infrastructural projects to begin by the middle of January 2018. Key areas to also witness the construction of community parks will be Medina, Wale and Yeji. Alhaji Boniface Abubakar Sadiq says the Ministry of Roads and Highways has also submitted a list of projects earmarked for some Zongo communities. He was speaking on the sidelines of the launch of Vision Hospital, a private health facility at Oyarifa on Friday.
Construction of Vision Hospital, a registered private medical health facility at Oyarifa in Accra, started 8 years ago. The state-of-the-art edifice, which is committed to excellent healthcare delivery standard, has a 30-bed capacity, a fully stocked pharmacy and laboratory, and other state-of-the-art clinical equipment to cater for the needs of clients. Chief Executive and Medical Director Dr. Wisdom Yevuza tells Joy News the facility, which is a one-stop health center, will operate 24 hours each day and is poised to deliver quality health care to its clients.
It's our aim that all subspecialties will be practiced here. But as of now, we have the pediatrics, the general surgery, obs and gynae, and internal medicine. The lab also runs 24/7. So we are in for work now. It's a total one-shop hospital. We have all the facilities available for diagnosis and treatment.
Minister for Inner City and Zongo Development, Alhaji Boniface Abubakar Sadiq, talked about some of the infrastructure projects earmarked for Zongo communities.
We'll be going into more activities like construction and so forth, which people will be so visible for people to see. So I want to assure them that once this one has started, it means the tap has been opened. And very soon, wherever I'm going, I'll invite you. Any project we want to start, we'll make you aware, and then you come and see. Currently, as I speak, there are consultants all over the country. Ministry of Roads and Highways, through their engineers, have submitted a whole list and projects within the Zongo communities. I have it in the office. I have to sit down with the Minister for Roads and Highways because most of my work is to collaborate, cooperate, and then coordinate with my sister ministries. If it is, we'll be starting with some community parks. I have in mind Medina, Chibi, Wale, we have Yeji, we have Odan. I know about 13 areas. We'll start with under the social development and regenerative health. We'll start with that. I know some areas during my going round that have water problems, like in Volta region. I know areas like Banda. You know, we have Banda, we have Prime, that have perennial water problems. All these places, we've talked to water and sanitation, and they've given us the necessary advice. And we are going to start that kind of pilot work.
Victims of Brûlé ulcer disease frequently report to specialized units at a late stage of the disease. This was announced by the head of Department for Biochemistry, West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, at a training on Brûlé ulcer identification and management. Dr. Lydia Mosi stated the delay is mainly due to local beliefs and preference for traditional healing. She explained the main purpose of the workshop was to equip community health workers, ward assistants, and doctors whose activities have direct impact on Brûlé ulcer identification, sample taking, management, and treatment.
Brûlé ulcer is neglected, so a lot of people don't even know about it to begin with. Number two, the places where you have the disease are places which are far removed from the district health centers or the mainstream hospitals. They are in the deep hamlets of our rural areas, and patients don't necessarily report early because Brûlé ulcer is painless. So they can have a huge lesion. Because there's no pain, they don't feel the urge to go and seek for treatment. And also, just because of our own cultural beliefs, we use other methods of treatment like traditional therapy or traditional plants for treating the lesions. And so our treatment seeking behavior is not good. So by the time a person with Brûlé ulcer gets to the healthcare facility, it's a full-blown ulcer, probably in category 3. The diagnosis is also not easy because unfortunately we can't do the diagnosis at the point of care. The sample has to be taken and sent either to Kumasi or Accra for diagnosis, and it takes, or for case confirmation, and it takes at least 3 weeks before a report can come back to the healthcare facility and say, oh, it's Brûlé ulcer, let's treat it. So whilst we are waiting for 3 weeks, the disease is also progressing. So it's a multifaceted area. One way we can fix this is to try and train people locally to be able to identify the cases. But some of the confirmatory things require equipment that are in the research centers in Accra or in Kumasi.
Veteran broadcaster Godwin Avenogbo has a problem with the way women portray themselves on social media. He says feeds into the narrative that they are mere sex symbols. Of particular concern to him is the women who stick out their tongues in photos shared on such platforms. He describes the practice as obscene because the tongue is also a sex object which should be kept away from public view.
The tongue in our mouth is a sex object. It's an organ. That is why God put it behind the teeth, protected by concrete, before your lips shut it down. I go on Facebook every day because I use Facebook for my communication work. Every day I must be there to see what's going on, what people are saying, what people are thinking. I use that for my companies. Oftentimes we regard women as sex objects because you see, all you see is their faces. Somebody can post 3 pictures every day, 4, 5, 6 pictures every day. The picture doesn't tell a story. Tell us a story about that picture, why it is there. So it's like. And I've observed one other thing. Because we are so used to pictures on Facebook, when people make sensible statements, we can't even comment on it. We just comment on the face and the beauty. So beauty has become the order of the day on Facebook. Whereas Facebook is a marketplace which many of us use to do business. Ladies, now I'm coming to you. We are on a women's project. The tongue in your mouth is a sex object. Do you know that? It's a sexual organ. The tongue. Are you aware of that? Are you aware of that? The tongue in our mouth is a sex object. It's an organ. That is why God put it behind the teeth, protected by concrete, before your lips shut it down. But what do we see? It is fashionable for women to take out their tongue and take pictures because they don't know what they're doing. Until you laugh, don't show your teeth, don't show your tongue. I studied grooming in UK about personality development. So I learned these things.
Godwin Avenogbo made these comments at the launch of a book, Women in Politics and Media in Ghana, in Accra on Thursday. He also urged politicians to invest more in the youth and not only their party activists, adding this will go a long way to promote national development. The book, Women in Politics and Media in Ghana, is authored by Sylvia Oyongo.